Hello and welcome to MBC News Hour. In the next 60 minutes, our reporters across the country will give us the latest in politics, business, entertainment and sports. I am Kingsley Mtila alongside
Kumbuka Piri. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Tausun Kamalata. Well, we're glad you could join us. Let's take a look at our top stories.
President Mutharika and First Lady Madame Gertrude Mutharika joined Christians and Muslims across the country and around the world in observing the start of the Lenten season and the holy month of Ramadan. Ministry of Finance says government highly values the private sector's contribution to national development. And in sports, Scorchers suffer a 2-0 defeat to host South Africa in their opening match of COSAFA Women's Championship.
Our top story tonight, His Excellency Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika and First Lady Madam Professor Gertrude Mutharika have joined millions of Christians in the country and around the world in observing the start of the Lenten season. Their Excellencies have said that this sacred period of 40 days is a time of profound reflection, inviting the faithful to walk in the footsteps of Christ through prayer, fasting and almsgiving.
President Mutharika and Madam Professor Gertrude Mutharika have further reminded Christians that as they begin the journey, they should remember of the power of humility and the importance of turning their hearts towards their neighbors in need.
The President and the First Lady have therefore wished Christian brothers and sisters a holy and transformative Lent. May these days of introspection bring Christians closer to faith and prepare their hearts for the hope and joy of Easter.
And President Arthur Peter Mutharika and First Lady Professor Gertrude Mutharika have also extended heartfelt wishes to Muslims across the nation as they begin the holy month of Ramadan. Their Excellencies said the month of Ramadan is a time to strengthen faith, deepen compassion, and renew our commitment to peace and unity.
They said Ramadan reminds us of the values of sacrifice, generosity and solidarity. It is also a call to join hands as one people, regardless of background, to build our nation, Malawi, on the foundations of harmony, resilience and shared progress. The first couple further stated that that may this blessed month bring spiritual fulfillment, strengthen bonds of community and inspire us all to work together for a bright future.
President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika says he is deeply concerned that certain health personnel in public health facilities have been soliciting payments from patients as a condition of providing medical services. Professor Mutharika has stated this in an Executive Order number 1 of 2026. The President is extremely concerned that other health personnel have been referring patients to their private clinics in order to access better medical treatment.
Professor Mutharika has since condemned the conduct as unlawful, unethical and wholly unacceptable. The President further says it is an affront to the patient's constitutional right to access health services. In order to safeguard the constitutional rights of all citizens and restore integrity in the health sector, President Mutharika has ordered that no employee of a government hospital or any other public health facility shall solicit, demand or accept fees or monetary favors from patients as a condition for receiving health services.
And any person found engaging in such malpractice shall be similarly dismissed from service and subjected to prosecution under the laws of Malawi. The President has further issued a restriction on private health interests, which says that no person employed by a public hospital or health facility shall own, operate or hold shares in a private health clinic or pharmacy.
The President has ordered that any employee currently holding such ownership or shares must divest within 30 days from the date of this executive order. For failure to comply shall result in dismissal and further legal action as appropriate.
Now, health experts and members of public health welcome President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika's executive order prohibiting the solicitation of payments from patients in public hospitals and barring public health officials from owning private clinics or pharmacies. The president warned that any officer who defies the directive will face dismissal and prosecution. Now, Emmanuel Chikonso reports. Well, report on that one will come through a little more later on the bulletin.
The Ministry of Health and Sanitation says it will put in place strict enforcement measures to ensure health personnel in public health facilities across the country comply to the executive order that President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika has issued.
Minister of Health and Sanitation, Madalitso Baloyi, has made the remarks following the executive order which bars any government hospital employee from soliciting payments from patients as a condition for providing medical services. The executive order has also banned the employees from owning or holding shares in a private health clinic or pharmacy. Baloyi explains to our reporter, Olive Pili.
We are going to ensure that this executive order is implemented. We will work with the relevant institutions, the police, the anti-corruption, the what, and we have also been given the power to fire on behalf of the president. So if that malpractice is found, at that point, that person is going to be fired. It's an executive order. And also we'll make sure that we put committees to look at who owns hospitals out there, and they have to be given letters 30 days to say, are they going to remain with the government or are they going to implement their own hospitals? So this will bring sanity. We are thanking the president because it will bring sanity. We cannot keep saying corruption has been there, therefore it has to be like that. We are putting a stop to this, and this government is saying we will not tolerate. This is the first time this has ever happened in Malawi, and we will take advantage. I will take advantage to end corruption in the Ministry of Health.
Development experts have hailed President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika for his maiden State of the Nation address since his re-election into power in September last year. In his address titled The Path to Economic Recovery, Delivering a People-Centered Development, President Mutharika highlighted a number of issues which the development stakeholders have described as a direct solution to social economic ills which have been bothering Malawi for the past 5 years. Tamvani has compiled this report.
One of the development experts, a development communication lecturer at Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, Andrew Kaponya, has told MBC that Mutharika delivered a sonar which resonates with the situation Malawians have been passing through. He said Malawi has already started benefiting from the sound policies of President Mutharika. Another development expert, Patrick Achitabwino, said economic and financial management measures spelled out in the sonar have resuscitated the economic life of Malawi, which was on its deathbed. Both Kaponya and Achitabwino have also spoken highly of President Mutharika's commitment to raise the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, to 5 billion kwacha, saying it brings out the true meaning of decentralization. Tamvani, MBC News, Blantyre.
The CCAP Synod of Livingstonia, traditional leaders and other stakeholders in the northern region continue to hail President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika for including crucial development projects that will facelift the region of the State of the Nation address. Inkosi Jalavikuba of Mzimba said the inclusion of Mombela University, Rumpi Nyika Ntalile Chitipa Road and the A1 project in the sonar shows that the president is determined to develop the country. We have a joint report by Hassan Piri and George Mkandawire.
Secretary for Mbeera Chiefs Council Nkosi Jaravikuwa said the mentioning of Mbeera University in the SONA will not only benefit the people from Zimba, but every person from Malawi and across the borders will tap knowledge from the institution once it is completed. Jaravikuwa hails President Mutharika for singling out a number of projects in the State of National Address.
We are very, very happy as Zimba because of the State President, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, for resuming the construction of Mbeera University. He has put it in plans for 2026-2027 national budget. In his SONA, he mentioned this. I think he is the one who started it, and we are not we are not surprised because we're the one who started it, and we know that this time is going to finish what we started. So, as Mzimba, we are very, very happy. Nkosi is very, very happy. The North is very happy.
General Secretary for Livingstonia Synod, Reverend William Tembo, commended President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika for mentioning key health and infrastructure projects in the SONA.
We would like to commend the government for thinking about the people of the North for the provision of the dialysis machine. And this, let me mention, this is life to someone. There will be someone whose life will be saved. And that particular person, after being saved, will contribute to the development of our country. So we are saying thank you, State President, for the dialysis machine. The Bwengunyika Mtalire Road, you cannot overemphasize the importance of this road. This road is very, very important.
Former Ambassador Green Ruwiro Mamondwe has described President Mutharika as a man who has come to restore Malawi's socio-economic challenges.
What he said about the socio-economic development of this country, within 4 or 5 months, things are happening and everyone knows that this is the way forward. All we need to do is the whole country to rally behind him and do as he does. For example, the major issue that is bothering us Malawians is corruption.
Taking his turn, former Secretary General of the Synod of Livingstonia, Reverend Howard Matiankoma, said the projects outlined in the SONA have direct impact on ordinary Malawians, specifically in the areas of health, education, agriculture, and infrastructure development.
Children can go to primary school, can attend secondary school with the government paying for their fees. That's a big step in the development of our country. I really appreciate and congratulate the President for this. Secondly, let me also talk on the 5 billion kwacha funds that will go into constituency. Each constituency, as it were. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money, which will, if well used as the President intends it should be, will be a great development.
President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika delivered his State of National Address last Friday in Parliament. Hassan Piri, MBC News, Nzozo.
Now, currently, Kumbu, I think we have seen quite a number of positive comments from stakeholders and, of course, the public at large relating to the President's State of the Nation Address, SONA, in Parliament last Friday. What's your take on the reaction from people out there?
Okay, positive feedback coming from the public, the general public, I must say. I think it's touching on the very crucial aspect of our well-being as Malawians, and it gives people hope that if all this is to be followed to the letter, then I think we're on the right track in terms of development in this country. Because as you see, it touches on health, it touches on education and all the crucial aspects. So I believe that that's why it's getting all that positive feedback as we've been featuring.
You can say that again, and of course among them has been an issue of incorporating youth development. I've seen quite a number of executive directors of youth organizations commenting on that one on a positive note. So yeah, I do agree with you on that one. We're hoping for the better and looking forward to positive outcomes as well.
Exactly.
Sure.
So the Beautify Malawi Trust, BEAM, says all is set for the launch of its 2026-2030 strategic plan on the 27th of this month at Kamuzu Palace in Lilongwe. Trustee Dingaswayo Jere has told NBC that the event will be graced by the state president, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika. Jere said the plan is aligned with the aspirations of Malawi 2063, particularly the first 10-year Malawi Implementation Plan, MIP1. Jere spoke to Mwaim Tumodzi.
We are indeed coming up with a strategic plan for Beautify Malawi that is going to take us through from 2026 to 2030, outlining up the vision, the objectives, and how we would like to move in the next 5 years. So we're having that unveiling ceremony on the 27th of February at the State House, Marquee, from 6 p.m. In the strategy, I'll not be able to get into detail because that's what we're going to unveil on that same date, but just to mention that we are so much aligning to the Malawi 2063. At the same time, we're also bringing it down to National Implementation Plan 2030 in line with the strategy that the government is putting in place. So as Beautify Malawi, we are also aligning with the national agenda. But also just to suffice to say that we're building out from our 2020-2025 strategic plan. So we're looking at what we did not do well in the previous strategy, but also the lessons that we have learned from the previous strategy, and also looking at the current gaps in the areas of health, hygiene, and sanitation. How best can we put all those things together to make sure that we improve our healthy living in Malawi?
Now, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Decentralization, Joseph Manamveka, says the government values the partnership it continues to enjoy with commercial banks in the country. He said this when one of the commercial banks, EcoBank, donated 175 million kwacha to support the government of Malawi's humanitarian response to people affected by disasters. Now, Mwaim Tumodzi reports.
Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Decentralization, Joseph Manamveka, said that through the support from the private sector, the government has been able to stabilize the food security situation in the country, particularly among people affected by disasters and those at risk of hunger. He commended EcoBank for the support.
I would want to register my appreciation not only to EcoBank, but also to the private sector and to the donors for the support they have given us. Because to raise 150 billion is not an easy thing. This is money coming from the private sector, money coming from the banks, money coming from the donors. I thought it is very important that we need to register as government, appreciate that. I think it's a good gesture. The private sector, the donors have shown that they will be with us, both in good and bad times. And this has helped us to also to alleviate the hunger that has been there. Let me say that we are also pleased that we have a lot of I think as I speak now, at least most of the Malawians have food. They're able to afford to have food on their table. And no one has suffering or died because of no food. We have not seen anybody taking Kiteze or even Nyika this year. You have not seen any queues in Nadimak depots because people are able to get the food. This is what our president wanted, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika. This is part of his manifesto. He wants to make sure that Malawians, as a priority, first of all, is food. For food is life. And we are happy that today, as we speak today, at least Malawians can afford to have food.
On his part, chairperson of the board of EcoBank, Simon Msefula, said the support was aimed at vulnerable communities, particularly those affected by disasters across the country.
EcoBank doesn't live in a void. EcoBank lives in a community. EcoBank is part of the community. What affects one member of the community affects the entire community. So EcoBank can't isolate itself from whatever is affecting the group that is around it, because quite a number of members of EcoBank itself do have relations that are also affected in those areas where there is distress.
The 175 million kwacha would support the Malawi government-led disaster and hunger relief efforts. Maim Tumodzi, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Government spokesperson Shadrack Namalomba says the nation will know the direction that government will take in regards to investigations on the Chikangawa plane crash, which claimed the life of the Vice President Dr. Saulos Chilima and 8 others before the end of this meeting of Parliament. Namalomba, who is also Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, said this in an interview with MBC in reaction to some members' plea for thorough investigations on the plane crash. The issue keeps on coming in the August House, the latest being Mphatsoboti Piri, a parliamentarian for Lilongwe Mude constituency, who asked government to do something as it promised. This is what the government spokesperson said on the matter.
The government of His Excellency Professor is seized of the matter and has taken keen interest in the matter. And that interest has never ceased. Continues to the extent that he directed that the Minister of Justice should review the files. Having reviewed the files, then he should advise government on what next steps must be taken. I am proud today to say that the review has been done. What we are waiting is the direction. And surely very soon, within the same house here, you will see developments taking place in that direction, where we are going to put to rest this matter once and for all. It is an emotive matter. It is a national matter. We want to know what actually happened. The families of those that lost their lives, we want to know. Relatives want to know. And the whole nation wants to know. So, Professor Arthur Mutaliga is very keen. And all of us are very keen to make sure that we get to the truth, the bottom of this issue.
You're watching News Hour live from our Kwacha studios in Blantyre.
Still to come, we join our colleagues at our Lilongwe studio, plus the business and sports segments. A reminder of our top stories.
President Mutharika and First Lady Madame Gertrude Mutharika joined Christians and Muslims across the country and around the world in observing the start of the Lenten season and the holy month of Ramadan. Ministry of Finance says government highly values the private sector's contribution to national development. And in sports, Scorchers suffer a 2-0 defeat to host South Africa in their opening match of COSAFA Women's Championship. Welcome back. You're watching News Hour here on MBC. Now, Mangochi District Labour Office says lack of mutual understanding between the office and some employers is hindering effective enforcement of occupation safety and health among employees in workplaces.
District Labour Officer Pempero Mapanje has told MBC that most employers claim that the office focuses on fault finding whenever officers are enforcing standard stipulated labour laws. Sotini Ndazi has filed a report read by Owen Mavula.
And health policies, procedures and practices serve as cornerstones of commitment to promoting labour welfare and regulating workplace safety. However, despite having these in place, some workplaces do not adhere to the guidelines, while those that do have them in place simply have a tick box attitude rather than a commitment to reducing accidents. In a move to enforce compliance, Mangochi District Labour Office has disclosed plans to strengthen enforcement of safety and health policy to ensure that working conditions for employees are up to good standards. According to District Labour Officer for Mangochi District Council, Pempero Mapanje, for some time, lack of mutual understanding between employers and the office has hindered enforcement efforts, and this has led to continued violation of labour laws.
That we face some challenges, but the most common challenge that we face in our inspection, either routine or either of the inspections that I mentioned earlier, is that there is a misunderstanding of what the labor inspections means to the employers and the employees. For the most of them, they think an inspection is a way of punishing them, or maybe we are going there to close their workplaces. So when we go for inspections, there are times that the employers, they sometimes give us wrong information just to say maybe protect themselves from maybe losing their jobs.
Despite facing non-compliance challenges among some employers, some companies in the district understand the importance of complying with the workplace safety and health practices. One of the factories in Mangochi, Chibuku Company, says it believes that unsafe and unhealthy working conditions can lead to injuries and financial losses. Head of brewery for the company in Mangochi, Hedson Vutula, told MBC in an interview that the company is working in compliance with occupational safety, health and welfare.
We've got a committee which meets the top management annually. There they discuss issues like, as I have said, to do with the welfare, but on top of that again, they do the bargaining of the salaries of the employees. So that's where the company comes in, and then they also meet and then negotiate and then come up with whatever the company is offering on the table for that particular year. So the employees are looked at welfare at the same time on the remuneration issues.
International Labour Organization's Global Strategy on Occupational Safety and Health 2024 to 2030 Plan of Action emphasizes the importance of a safe and healthy working environment as a fundamental principle and right at work.
Let's now cross over to our Lilongwe studios for updates from the Central Region.
From our Area 4 studios in Lilongwe, welcome to this segment of News Hour. You're with me, Maim Tomodzi, and my colleague
Patrick Dambula.
Straight to our first story. Some members of parliament say the Mutharika-led administration has restored order in the country as there are signs of economic stabilization. Member of Parliament for Blantyre Central, Gerald Tasaugadala, made the remarks in Parliament in his contribution to the State of Nation address delivered by President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika last week Friday. According to Sir Tasaugadala, the economic stabilization is evidenced by the drop in prices of some key commodities. Olive Piri reports.
As members of Parliament continue the State of the Nation address delivered by President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika last week, Member of Parliament for Blantyre Central, Gerald Tasaugadala, has hailed the President for delivering a State of the Nation address with a bold direction. According to Tasaugadala, the Mutharika-led administration did not inherit a functioning economy, but rather a nation in distress and economically weak. Tasaugadala says businesses were closing, there were no medicines in hospitals, and public resources were being looted. He says the current government is now restoring various things.
The SONA has addressed issues on the austerity measures that was not in the past. Has also given us hope for the stabilization of the economy in as far as the availability of forex is concerned, whereby the government will be able to procure medicines, will be able to procure fuel, so that the fuel availability is also the drive of the economy.
Member of Parliament for Zomba City South, James Mpunga, has since described President Mutharika's SONA as a right path to economic recovery. In his contribution to the SONA, Mpunga states that fuel availability is enhancing economic activities in the country.
Economic zones are very important
because these are economic hubs that will spur development and even manufacturing in those cities. So we have got 4 cities in Malawi, Zomba being the oldest. As a parliamentarian for Zomba City, I was saying, no, why is Zomba left out? It's also very important that cities move together as far as economic development is concerned. So I did say this last time when we met here. I'm also repeating this request that the government should consider seriously giving Zomba City also a special economic zone for us also to diversify in terms of our economy.
Meanwhile, the House has adjourned to Thursday morning when members will continue debating the State of the Nation address. Olive Pili, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Thank you so much, Olive. The Malawi Electoral Commission (MEC) has expressed satisfaction with the voter verification exercise for parliamentary and local government by-elections scheduled for 17th March 2026. MEC chairperson Justice Anabe Ontalimanja made the remarks at Waliranji Primary School in Nchinji, where she monitored voter verification, marking the closing of the exercise. Ntalimanja said she is optimistic that all registered voters will turn out to cast their vote on polling day. She further urged the media, political parties and civil society organizations to mobilize voters to ensure high turnout. She explains.
We know we'll be on the 17th of March, and our anticipation is that every registered voter in these areas is going to turn out and cast their vote. We are encouraging all voters to ensure that they participate by coming out on polling day and cast their vote to choose either the MP or councillor for their area respectively. Also just to emphasize that participation is open to even those who registered for the 16th September general election who did not come to register now. Those should also know that they are part of the process and they should come out.
Moving on, elderly persons continue to suffer witchcraft accusations that trigger mob justice in communities across the country. This does not only ruin their lives, it also affects their families. This continues to happen despite awareness campaigns and enforcement of laws aimed at curbing the malpractice. In this report, our reporter Catherine Banda highlights how such accusations are affecting people's lives in the country.
How does it feel, having your life all together and enjoying your peace and everything that you have worked so hard for in your entire life? But all of a sudden, things turn upside down as you lose everything. Well, this is the case of Emilet Josia, an elderly woman with 5 children from Chisega village, Senior Chief Chisega in Nilongwe district. She is now deserted and abandoned. It is reported that between 12 and 14 October 2025, Josia was accused of practicing witchcraft following the death of a boy in her village. This compelled an angry mob in her village to destroy her house, including 7 other houses belonging to her children and grandchildren. The mob also stole her farm produce and all her property. She was only rescued from the mob by her children. Josia laments that the incident has completely left a big scar on her life as she is traumatized. She also says the incident has taken away her peace and mostly left a big impact on her children and grandchildren.
When my children tried to rescue me from the angry mob, I hesitated a little bit, so the mob destroyed my house and took everything I had. Now I'm left with nothing.
Linda Stephen, a mother of 4 who became a widow in 2019, is Josiah's granddaughter. Her house was destroyed along with her grandmother's. She is now renting a house in another village and surviving on pieceworks. She adds that her children are now with well-wishers who offer to help as she is still trying to get back on her feet.
Life is no longer the same. We are suffering. Yes, we are living, but it is much better to stay in our own house than a rented one.
4 months down the line, the Josia family still wonders if they have a chance to go back and start redeveloping their land for possible resettlement. Hassan Chikumbutso Jinseo said thoughts are there, but they keep on holding back for fear of the mob.
As a family, we are completely scattered. We are not certain of the future of this whole situation, but we wonder if we still have the chance to go back to our place.
Senior Chief Chisega said mob justice continues to affect his area, as this is not the first case. He banks on continued awareness and police intervention to end the malpractices.
They indeed planned the attacks secretly. They did not even consult the village elders, but what they thought was to just destroy. As a local leader, I have been speaking against such malpractice and informing them to always consult authorities whenever they feel grieved.
Malawi Network of Order Persons Organization, Manepo Executive Director, says it is unfortunate that order persons continue facing various forms of attacks. He said according to their reports, 20 elderly persons were killed in 2025 based on witchcraft accusations, while many others were victimized.
We would also want to urge every Malawian, wherever they are living, to say please let us be there and support older persons in whatever form. Older persons require a lot of support from us Malawians. They need us to give them the care that they deserve.
Meanwhile, Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Mary Navicha, says government will not overlook such malpractices and that all involved in such acts will face the law. She described the situation as regrettable, adding her ministry will continue working hard in sensitizing the public towards securing the rights of elderly persons and the welfare of all people.
We have taken a leading role of coordinating with relevant stakeholders such as police and Ministry of Justice in making sure that growing old should not be a crime in fear of being accused. I would like to take this opportunity to warn people that the law will not smile at anyone and will not allow any citizen to kill another person due to these allegations. Growing old is just a blessing. One day it will be maybe you or me. It's just a blessing. So let's stop accusing, let's stop killing, and we should also stop stealing their properties due to these serious allegations.
Area Central West Region Police indicated that cases of mob justice were still high, as in 11 months of 2025, they recorded 35 murder cases of mob justice. According to Malawi's Witchcraft Act, it is prohibited to accuse someone of being a witch or practicing witchcraft, and that anybody that solicits another to call or accuse someone of witchcraft are liable for imprisonment. Catherine Banda, MBC News, Lilongwe.
World Vision Malawi has appealed to members of parliament to lobby for increased funding and expansion of school meals program as a way of ending hunger and malnutrition among children. Country Director for World Vision, Francis Dube, said this in Lilongwe during an engagement meeting with parliamentary committees and other stakeholders on school feeding program. More in this report by Lonjezo Msodoga.
Dua said the meeting seeks to strengthen school feeding programs to combat child hunger and malnutrition, which continue to affect pupils' concentration and performance. He called for more resources to expand the program beyond selected primary schools and community-based childcare centers, CBCCs, urging parliamentary committees to push for increased funding nationwide.
They're having this meeting and this engagement with the members of parliament is to bring in a lobby or to advocate for allocations within government to increase so that we can have government taking more and more of the burden of school feeding, and then that will give us that comfort of sustainability, because it becomes embedded within the government social safety network programs.
Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Education, Mutani Tambala, said Malawi must enhance nutritional strategies through school feeding programs. She added that the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, could help sustain the initiative at constituency level.
CDF, it is a lot of money, and if you well outlined or the guidelines they are there, this can indeed cater for a feeding program. It is how it can be planned so that this can really help in the feeding program. CDF, as you know, is 5 billion this time around. It is possible.
Donors currently provide most of the support for school feeding programs in Malawi. Lonjezo Sodoka, MBC News, Lilongwe.
That's how we conclude this segment of News Hour from our Area 4 studios in Lilongwe. You've been with me, my Mtomods, and my colleague
Patrick Dambula.
Thank you for watching, and we're handing you back to our Kwacha studios.
Well, many thanks to Patrick Dambula and, of course, my Ntumodzi for the Central Region update. Now, for the latest in business news, we're joined by Justin Nkweo.
Thank you very much, and we go straight to our first story. The Indian High Commissioner to Malawi, Amararam Gujar, has pledged to support President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika's directive to digitize services in ministries, departments and agencies. Speaking during the State of the Nation address last week, President Mutharika said Malawians must now fully utilize online platforms for application of passports, national IDs and driving licenses, as well as for public procurement and other essential services. Commenting on the sidelines of a meeting of investors from India and Malawi in Blantyre, the High Commissioner said India will help in materializing the directive.
They are, I think, is very serious, especially person from the fintech sector. He has already established a company here, and he is closely working with the Airtel Money. So he has a very good plan to roll out in whole Malawi the fintech sector, having the integration of the financial transaction. And I was also in the parliament a few days back when Honorable President of Malawi, Excellency Peter Mutharika, delivered his State of the Nation address, where Honorable President has clearly mentioned that his government priority is the digitization of the economy. So where I think is India, we have a very knowledge and we have an expertise to contribute in Malawi's fintech sector to have the integration of the digitization of economy. So this two people came from that one also, and you have heard that two people came from the biofertilizer. They are just making the biofertilizer also in Malawi also. So idea is that of course conventional granular fertilizers people are using here, but that is also not good for health. So now I think the government focus is also to have a multiple options, like conventional granular NPK can be also continued, but on the same time also biofertilizer can be also good sustainable solution, which would be good for the soil and the crop also. So I hope that something will come out from this delegation, and let us see. I think is what CEO of MCCI has mentioned, that I think it should be translated into business.
Meanwhile, Indian investors have indicated that they are exploring opportunities in Malawi to develop, especially in the areas of agriculture, financial technologies and manufacturing, among others. The investors said this when they met the private sector from Malawi, who are under the Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI. Leader of delegation of the investors from India, Vikas Agrawal, said it is their wish to work with Malawi government and the private sector in the country in developing the economies of the two countries through international trade.
We are just not here to talk. We are here with proper solutions for the Malawians. I'll just give you one example. There's one agriculture company, Sesto Systems, Sesto Green. They have come up with a fertilizer solution. You know, Malawi is a 90+% economy is based on agriculture. Most of the Malawians are based on agriculture. So right now, because of the high input costs, and low availability of fertilizers. The productivity per hectare is very low, because of which the cost of production of the Malawian farmer is high. So we have come up with a solution. We have already introduced this technology in Malawi. It is tested, tried, and SFF-RFM is already selling it to their network. Now, if the farmers utilize this technology, their cost of input will be less, their productivity will be increased at least by 2 times, and with these 2 things, their cost of product will be less, and then they will be more competitive in the international market, so that they can start exporting also. So this way, Malawi can increase their productivity and exports of food grains. So this is one of the technologies. Apart from that, you know that India is one of the spearhead of IT technologies. So Malawi can utilize these we already have a company here now. So these companies, if they get a market in Malawi and the people accept it, they can develop their systems, the business, the daily lifestyle, and they can save huge money over a period of time with these technologies.
Meanwhile, the Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, has said the private sector is ready to advance industrialization in the country. MCCCI President Wisely Piri said government, however, should provide a conducive environment where businesses can thrive to contribute to the growth of the national economy. MBC caught up with Piri in this interview on the sidelines of the business-to-business meeting between Malawi and Indian investors in Blantyre.
When you look at the chamber side, I think all we can do from our side is to lobby for the good policies from the government that would allow these people being able to come into the country. And we've done that over the years. There are some policies that as of now, we still believe they need to be worked on. As an example, there have been some way you talk of supernormal profits. I think now it's been reduced to around 5 billion, where now the taxes are a bit more. So when we pushing in investors to come in, someone pushes in millions of dollars, then you're telling him that if you make $2 million as a profit, we'll charge you more. Those are some of the policies that as a chamber we've been engaging government on, and we're still working on. But otherwise, as a country or in general, it's a good country to invest in. And all these investors, when we sit down with them, they look up to Malawi because we're stable. We're a country, like we're saying, we're an agricultural nation. Then you've got India that is looking at a lot of these sesames, pigeon peas that we can easily grow from Malawi. And looking at the way we've been stable, no political violence and all that, it's a country where people don't invest in. But there are some other things that we need to work on, like I've mentioned.
Well, that's it from the business segment inside News Hour, and it's back to you, my colleagues.
And many thanks. Reaching out to Justin Kweu with the latest in as well as business news is concerned. Now for the latest in sports, we have Norbert Jameson joining us now.
We begin the sports segment with news that Mayor for Blantyre City, Isaac Jomo Osman, says he's planning of reverting the name of the Blantyre Sports Arena back to Blantyre Youth Centre. Malawi National Council of Sports changed the name a few years ago.
We are trying to bring historic names back. You know, starting long ago, everyone knows that in Blantyre we have Blantyre Youth Centre. So some people just come in and changing the names to say it. Blantyre Arena is bad. So we want to ask the Sports Council to rethink about that, to bring back the name of Blantyre Youth Centre. If they want to rename something by the name of Blantyre Arena, they are building a lot of structures. They're going to call those structures by the name of Blantyre Arena. But we will try to talk to the body about the issue, and we want to bring the name of Youth Centre back again.
However, the council's spokesperson, Eddie Gantulumba, says they'll look into the matter when it reaches their office.
I wanted the name to encompass what happens at the Blantyre Sports Arena. As you are aware, it was called Blantyre Youth Center. Mostly the name Youth Center took center stage. It was like the sporting codes that were happening at the Blantyre Sports Arena were mainly focusing on the youth. But in reality, it's not only the youth who use that facility. Everyone, the young, the youth, and the elderly, they also use that facility for different sporting codes. We're talking of netball. We have netball games, basketball, taekwondo, volleyball, football games. So we changed the name to Blantyre Sports Arena in order to encompass, to give it a true meaning of what is happening there at the facility. So that's the reason why we changed the name from the Blantyre Youth Center to Blantyre Sports Arena, to encompass everything that happens there, but also just to show that the place is not mainly for the youth, but for everyone who is interested to engage in sporting activities. If they write to us, I think now we might engage them, maybe have a meeting. From that meeting, the discussions we are going to have, I think maybe that would determine what the next step will be. But as of now, if they write to us, I'm sure we're going to have a meeting. They will explain to us their views, but we are also going to share them why the name changed from Blantyre Youth Center to Blantyre Sports Arena. Then from this meeting, I think then the next step will be decided.
Malawi National Council of Sports Board Chairperson Jim Kalua says they are working on commercializing their operations to expand their resource mobilization means. To achieve that, Kalua has called on management to uphold values of integrity and professionalism in order to attract corporate partnerships.
Yeah, it's indeed that is we have been this have always emphasized, that is with the board and executive management. What we saw in long way, there are some recommendations which we need, that is immediate attention from the executive management, some from that is at board level, and some at ministry level. But while we're waiting, more especially that is waiting for some for the government, there are a lot of processes as well. But we need to start as a council that is engage the corporates and the like. That is key. There's no substitute that is in as far as that is making sure that we have got partnerships. We have got we are working that is on the issue of commercialization that is in a bigger way. And the director of infrastructure, planning and marketing is a guy who has been in the corporate world for so long, and with the expertise from some of us, we should be able to achieve something. There's a lot of goodwill. People will not come where there are people who are corrupt, people with no integrity, people that is favoritism, fairness, respect. All these, that is open communication.
And finally, construction of the BAT Stadium in Blantyre will be completed in 3 years' time, says Donex Taombe, Managing Director for Donex Construction, which is one of the 3 companies working on the project. The other 2 companies are Deck Construction and Cas Construction. The stadium will accommodate 14,000 people, and according to Taombe, it will be completed in 2018.
Board chair of the Sports Council was here recently, and he has just left, and he has encouraged us that at least we need to back up so that at least the works of the BAT Stadium should be worked within the agreed period of 3 years, and they have assured us that we should not get worried about payment. We know that we have been given an advance and the materials are there. You can see the tipper, the trucks, and the doors are there. We are very happy that even you journalists, you are here to encourage us. You are taking notes. Tell the people that the BAT Stadium will be built and will be finished in good time. So far, we cannot record any challenge because we are just below 6 months. But if there will be any challenges, we'll let you know. Yeah, it was only yesterday whereby we sent the workers back. We just recorded 3 hours of their work so that at least they could recoup their transport. But the works, as you can see, we are working in the rains, and we assure the people that we will do accordingly as regards to avoidance of the rain so that at least the works proceed and progress.
And that's it inside the sports segment, as I hand you back to our main anchors.
And still in sports, the Malawi women's national football team, the Scorchers, have begun the course of Women's Championship on a disappointing note after losing to host South Africa by 2-0. The Scorchers conceded both goals in the first half and provided no response. South Africa are level on 3 points with Angola, who beat Lesotho 3-1 in the opening match of the tournament. Malawi will face Lesotho on Saturday before meeting Angola next week. Only one team from the group will automatically qualify for the semi-finals.
In international news, delegates at the just-ended African Union have discussed several continental priorities, including converting African dates into investments. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, recently highlighted this approach at the summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. According to Meloni, the plan will offer a new approach to partnerships focusing on mutual benefits and respect for Africa's development path. Tosin Magombo has the story.
The plan could help African countries address pressing issues like debt burden, climate change, and infrastructure gaps, while shifting dynamics of Africa's partnerships with Western countries. Speaking at the 39th African Union General Assembly in Addis Ababa, Meloni highlighted Italy's Matter Plan, focusing on investments in infrastructure, agriculture, education, and health to drive mutual prosperity and stem migration.
Italy has decided to launch a vast program to convert the debt of African nations, which includes among its main points the complete transformation of the debt of the most fragile and vulnerable countries into investments, and the strengthening of the contribution to the World Bank's AIDA funds. Similarly, we've introduced specific debt suspension clauses into our bilateral loans, allowing African nations affected by extreme weather events to free up fiscal space to help their population and rebuild essential infrastructures.
On the other hand, the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres emphasized the importance of providing Africa with opportunity to make decisions pertaining to its security.
The absence of permanent African seats in the Security Council is indefensible. This is 2026, not 1946. Whatever decisions about Africa and the world are on the table, Africa must be at the table. Excellencies, these priorities inform the Pact for the Future, shaped by African leadership and the UN80 initiative to strengthen UN support to Africa and beyond.
The summit brought together African leaders to discuss continental priorities, including peace, security, economic integration, and sustainable development, under the theme assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Tosin Magombo, MBC News.
And that item also concludes this edition of News Hour. A reminder of our top stories before we leave.
President Mutharika and First Lady Madame Gertrude Mutharika joined Christians and Muslims across the country and around the world in observing the start of the Lenten season and the holy month of Ramadan. Ministry of Finance says government highly values the private sector's contribution to national development. And in sports, Scorchers suffer a 2-0 defeat to host South Africa in their opening match of COSAFA Women's Championship. You can keep up to date with our news coverage on our digital pages by scanning the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen. You are with me, Kingsley Mtila, alongside
Kumbukani Piri, and our sign language interpreter tonight was Telson Kamalata. From the entire news team, it's thanks for watching and goodbye for now.
Good
evening, and it's time for weather forecast. Localized heavy rains